What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. And welcome to the first silly season update video of 2024. This will be all the recapping every major silly season move that could be happening from 2024 through the 2025 NASCAR silly season. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Let's start off by talking about Stewart-Haas Racing. There have been a lot of questions surrounding Stewart-Haas Racing throughout this year at the beginning. There's a lot of conversations that Stewart-Haas Racing could be downsizing in 2025 and might be selling not only one charter for 2025, but they might be selling up to two charters for the 2025 season, meaning that they can downsize from a 4-car team down to a 3-car team or even a 2-car team for the 2025 season. Another big question surrounding Stewart-Haas Racing is the possibility of switching manufacturers. Stewart-Haas Racing's Ford deal comes to an end at the end of the 2024 season. And we know as of now they have not signed that deal. And with Viking Motorsports announcing they signed their deal with Ford, their Tier 1 deal, there's a lot of expectations that SHR is going to lose their deal with Ford. So even if they do stay with Ford, they're not going to be a Tier 1 organization more than likely. I've already mentioned this, so there's a lot of talk that they could be switching manufacturers. They could be switching back to Chevrolet. They've worked with Chevrolet for a long time from 2009 up until the end of the 2016 season. Then they switched to Ford, of course, in 2017. And a lot of success SHR had was with Chevy. Both of their Cup Series championships did come with Chevy. There's also been talk about Toyota as well. There was a post that was deleted, I think, from Facebook showing that there's been talk maybe they could be working with Toyota as well. But then there's a wild card, and that is Honda. There's been a lot of talk about Honda potentially joining NASCAR, and Stewart-Haas Racing could be that organization and team that does switch to Honda for the 2025 or 2026 season. Speaking of which, let's now talk about Honda. There's been a lot of rumblings over the last few months that Honda is looking to join NASCAR. Now, it doesn't exactly sound like they're going to join maybe in 2025 because the bodies have to be approved by September 1st a year prior. So if they were to be approved for 2025, they would have had to have been approved on September 1st of 2023. But a lot of the expectations is that Honda is going to be leaving IndyCar at the end of 2026, either go focus on their Formula One program or potentially perhaps come into NASCAR. And a lot are speculating that Honda could be joining in 2026. Many of the expectations is that SHR could be in the running to go there in the future. Spire Motorsports team hasn't brought into questions because they're a team that's made a lot of moves over the last 2 years. They could also sell a charter, that being Spire Motorsports, but they could be a team that could go to Honda if they join. You've also got Chip Ganassi Racing. Chip Ganassi has said that he's not completely out of the possibility of making a return to the NASCAR Cup Series in the future, so he certainly could be a possibility. And then you have Andretti Global. Michael Andretti is still interested in going to NASCAR, though he still is focused on racing in Formula One. So we could see Honda join, and all those organizations I mentioned could be candidates to go over to Honda. Now let's talk about Marten Jr. There's a lot of questions surrounding Marten Jr. past the 2024 season. Marten Jr. stated he's probably not going to have a decision on his future past 2024 until September. I think there's a really good chance and possibility that 2024 is going to be Marten Jr.'s final season in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he could retire at the end of the 2024 season and move into a different role in the team, or maybe just retire altogether and not race anymore. He is one of the big storylines going forward, and especially with the fact he was frustrated at Richmond, I think there is a chance that Marten Jr. could retire at the end of this year. Then during Daytona week, DJ Khaled was at the Daytona 500 media availabilities during when the race got red flagged and rain delayed till the next day. And he says he's interested in joining NASCAR as a team owner. He likes a lot of stuff going on in this sport, and I think DJ Khaled being part of NASCAR would be really, really huge for the growth of the sport. And he could be one of those team owners that goes over to Honda. Now, obviously, he's going to need a charter to get into the sport, but DJ Khaled is interested in joining NASCAR. Another driver that's a big name in this silly season is Daniel Suarez. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Daniel Suarez's future past 2024. As well, yes, Daniel Suarez did win at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and that was a huge confidence booster for Suarez. This is a contract year for Daniel Suarez, as Justin Marks has stated. Now, I do think there's a really good chance that Daniel Suarez is going to stay at Trackhouse Racing past the 2024 season, and will probably stay in 2025. But I do think that Daniel Suarez could also go to another organization or maybe lose his ride in the 99. He needs to step up to play a little bit more. He's a big name in the silly season because it's unclear if he's going to stay. That win Atlanta probably helped his chances in a pretty big way. Let's now move on to talk about Kurt Busch. Now, Kurt Busch a few weeks ago after Las Vegas teased and maybe a possible return to NASCAR. Now, obviously, I think that kind of might have been a little bit of a teaser, maybe, or I don't know what exactly it was. But Kurt Busch, there was article that came out, I think, from Front Stretch, where I think Steve Valletta was interviewed. They said they haven't really talked to Kurt Busch at this point about potentially returning. But I think Kurt Busch coming back in the NASCAR to have a one-off or two-off return, I think would be really awesome and cool to see. So Kurt Busch could be a driver that is coming back. There's also been a lot of rumors surrounding Austin Dillon early in the year about possibly retiring at the end of this season. Austin Dillon was really frustrated after Richmond. He has a new crew chief starting this week with Justin Alexander to try to turn the season around. I don't think Austin Dillon is going to retire at the end of this season, but 2025 certainly could be a possibility, especially if Austin Hill, who's going to make 4 NASCAR Cup Series starts in 2024 with RCR, I certainly do think that Austin Dillon could retire in the near future. Speaking of Andretti, let's talk about them too. They're interested in joining NASCAR. They've been mentioned multiple times, and they've been rumored that they could buy their way into Spire Motorsports' program. Considering the Gamebridge has a big alliance with Andretti Global, I would not be surprised or shocked if Andretti finds their way into NASCAR and they're working with Spire Motorsports. But Andretti Global is absolutely interested in coming into NASCAR, and they could get drivers out of nowhere like a Kyle Weatherman to start off a team, like a Matt DiBenedetto could be a possibility, who we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But Andretti Global is certainly a team to watch for. Now let's talk about RFK Racing. According to recent reports, there were representatives from RFK Racing that were spotted at Sebring. It's no secret that Brad Keselowski wants to bring RFK Racing into IMSA into the GT class. But there's also been a lot of talk about RFK Racing looking to expand in the Cup Series. Brad Keselowski stated recently that he wants to have a 3 to 4 car organization by 2025 or 2026. And they also have talked about maybe going to Xfinity, though there's nothing official on that front. There are certain drivers that could be in candidacy who could be potential candidates to go to RFK Racing's Cup Series program. Even Justin Haley has to be another name that could be a possibility as well. Speaking of Matt DiBenedetto, we know that Matt DiBenedetto is driving for Viking Motorsports for a select number of races in 2024, but they're not running the full season. If Matt DiBenedetto does well with Viking Motorsports, maybe this could open up the doors for him to drive full-time for them in 2025 and be a full-time Xfinity Series driver. I expect him to be very, very solid with this team in the select Xfinity Series races, including tomorrow evening or later this evening at Martinsville. I think Matt DiBenedetto could be a very strong candidate and a possible name that could go full-time with this organization in 2025, but he's definitely going to need sponsorship and funding. Let's talk about Scott McLaughlin. There was a Q&A done recently about a week or two ago on Twitter, and he's interested in racing in NASCAR. Now, this is not the first time Scott McLaughlin has shown interest after SVG did win the Chicago Street Course race. Scott had expressed interest in racing in NASCAR. He almost went to NASCAR, not IndyCar, a few years ago, but he decided to go full-time IndyCar racing. I think Scott McLaughlin absolutely will be a big name as a possibility of making a one-off or two-off start in the future. Let's now talk about the 4 teams that are in the running for an SHR charter. Trackhouse Racing. It is no secret that Trackhouse Racing is looking to expand to as many as 4 full-time cars in the Cup Series in 2025. They, of course, have Ross Chastain in the 1 car, Daniel Suarez in the 99, who's under a contract here, Shane Van Gisbergen, and we'll talk about it just a little bit, and Zane Smith under contract, and even Conor Zill. Trackhouse Racing is in the market to try to pick up a charter, and they're the most desperate team. They're going to be the most aggressive team looking to pick up a charter. They also could go with a Khaled Racing charter as well if Khaled Racing does decide, in fact, to downsize their program to 1 full-time car, especially with the struggles they've been having as of recently. Now let's talk about 2311 Racing. They're the second of the 4 teams that are interested in the SHR charter. 2311 Racing is no secret wants to expand to a 3 to 4 car organization. Denny Hamel has shown interest in wanting to race for his own organization, and we do believe that they want to have 3 or 4 cars not too far down the road. Now, who could be this driver, this third car? Maybe Cory Heim. Maybe they get Carl Edwards out of retirement. Maybe Kurt Busch comes out of retirement. Maybe they get Eric Almirola or Sheldon Creed, or even Chandler Smith as well. Those could all be possibilities for 2311 Racing if they do expand their program. Now let's move on to Junior Motorsports. They're the third of the 4 teams that were mentioned in the Adam Stern article. And according to him, Junior Motorsports is still looking to go Cup Series racing. But the biggest hurdle for Junior Motorsports to jump up right now is the charters. Charter agreement has still not been finalized for 2025, and it's unknown if they are going to be able to get those charters. But Junior Motorsports is interested. They have a lot of drivers in their pipeline, like Sammy Smith and Sam Mayer, who I think are Cup ready or close to being Cup ready at this point. And Junior Motorsports could make the jump in 2025. The final team that's interested is Legacy Motor Club. They're looking to expand to a third full-time entry for the 2025 season. Legacy Motor Club wants to have a third full-time car, the car that Jimmy's been driving, and maybe even Cory Heim or even Matt Kenseth could come out of retirement to drive this seat. Nonetheless, Legacy Motor Club would be the least likely of the 4 teams, but they certainly are looking to expand for the 2025 season. Now let's talk about Harrison Burton. There's been a lot of chatter surrounding Harrison Burton's future in the NASCAR Cup Series. So far, 2024 has been a mess-up year for him. He's only had 1 finish inside the top 25 for the first 7 races. And I do believe that Harrison Burton, if he does not turn around the performance now, he'll lose his seat at the Wood Brothers. And honestly, I think he will be out of the Wood Brothers at the end of the year. He's got sponsorship funding, but Dex Imaging has not been funding all the races so far in 2024. So certainly Harrison Burton might not return. There was a lot of talk he wasn't even going to be back this year in the car, but Harrison Burton is a free agent potentially at the end of the year. Now let's talk about Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe might have just become a sleeper pick in this silly season because this is a contract year according to Chase Briscoe. And with the rumblings that SHR might be selling charters at the end of the year, Chase Briscoe could become a free agent and leave Stewart-Haas Racing. I think the Wood Brothers are a potential possible place for Chase Briscoe to go to in 2025, especially because I think the Wood Brothers become a Tier 1 organization, and if Chase Briscoe went there, and I think their performance would get a lot better. I think Chase Briscoe could be a sleeper pick during this silly season. Another one is Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece is also on a contract year, and I think he's the most likely to leave that 41 car. I think the 41 charter is going to be going away at the end of this year with the SHR rumors, and I think Ryan Preece will become a free agent more than likely at the end of this season. What does this mean for his future? With him being a little bit of an older driver now, I don't think he is going to stay full-time in Cup. He may go full-time Xfinity if things work out, but I think right now that Ryan Preece will be likely a free agent at the end of the season. Now let's talk about Hailie Deegan. Hailie Deegan, I think her name is getting brought up a little bit because of her struggles so far at the start of 2024, even though I don't really think it's her fault. She could become a free agent at the end of the year, even though she does technically have a multi-year deal with AM Racing. Contracts can easily be broken. She needs to turn around her performance relatively quickly, which I think she's got potential to do that. She's got some good tracks coming up here where she hasn't had a lot of great finishes, but her future in NASCAR could be uncertain. Now, she obviously could be a candidate for one of the Cup Series in the future because she does have a little bit of sponsorship and funding in the NASCAR Cup Series, or NASCAR in general. Now let's talk about Cory Heim. Cory Heim is currently the reserve driver for 2311 Racing and Legacy Motor Club. And he's been extremely impressive in the Truck Series so far, and even his Select Xfinity Series starts. He finished in the top 5 in Richmond and Xfinity last week. And also Cory Heim has finished no worse than third, basically 6th all year, and has a third place average finish. He's already won a race, and I think he's going to be a favorite to win later this evening. He might win the race by the time you guys are watching this. But Cory Heim could join Cup in 2025, especially with the rumblings of 2311 Legacy looking to expand. Cory Heim potentially could be a Cup Series driver in the 2025 season. Another driver that can move up is Chandler Smith. Chandler Smith has made a couple select Cup Series starts before Khaled Racing, and his name gets mentioned quite a bit as a moving up driver. He's already got 2 wins so far this season, and he's a championship favorite already, and I think he will probably win the championship this year in the Xfinity Series. He's a front runner to potentially replace a guy like Marten Jr. if he does end up retiring. I think he's one of the reserve drivers for the Toyota pipeline at this moment. I think Chandler Smith will be a name to watch for during the silly season especially with his performance. Now let's talk about Khaled Racing. Khaled Racing is an organization that has been talked about with their struggles in the Cup Series. And many people do believe that Khaled Racing might sell a charter at the end of the 2024 season and sell one of their charters off to a team like Trackhouse or even maybe a team outside of the box like a Rick Ware or even RFK. I think that Khaled Racing is going to sell a charter at the end of the year, and especially that 16 car. I think they expanded way too quickly, and I think for them to be a lot smarter, selling a charter would probably be the move that I would go with if we wanted to grow a brand. I think especially with them struggling, they've had Cup guys come in there win like Kyle Larson and Allmendinger and Kyle Busch driven for their program in Xfinity, but they've struggled in Cup so far this year, and Allmendinger, especially with him not being full-time, I think there's a chance that they do downsize their program. Now let's talk about Shane Van Gisbergen. Now Shane Van Gisbergen's future is a little bit unknown if he's going to be a full-time Cup driver next year in 2025. But he's been pretty impressive so far in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. On top of that as well, he's got 8 or 9 Cup Series races scheduled altogether this year with Khaled Racing with Trackhouse support. I think he's going to win a Cup race before the end of the year in 2025, and I certainly think he's going to win some Xfinity Series races. Many are expecting that with his performance getting better, that he is going to be a full-time Cup Series driver by 2025. SVG would be a really, really strong candidate for a potential move to Cup, and I think he could be moving up to the Cup Series as early as the 2025 season on a full-time basis. With his performance being good in Xfinity, I think he might be moving up next season. Now let's talk about Rajah Caruth. Rajah Caruth is a driver that could move up to the Xfinity Series in 2025. He has been extremely impressive this year. He has been really good in trucks, only one finish outside the top 10 so far this year, and Rajah already has a win going at Las Vegas. Rajah, many do believe there's a chance he can move up to Xfinity full-time next year with Hendrick Motorsports. He is the next great Hendrick driver, a lot of people do believe, and I think Rajah would be a great candidate to move up to Xfinity with a team like Hendrick Motorsports full-time with the 17 program. And maybe there's a chance he could run part-time Xfinity this year if things work out. But Rajah is someone to watch for during the silly season. Next, let's talk about Conor Zill. Conor Zill made his Truck Series debut. There's a lot of hype around him. He's got a development deal with Trackhouse Racing. He's making select starts at Junior Motorsports at the end of this season and also make a couple more Truck Series starts as well. Some do believe that he's going to be a full-time Xfinity driver next year, especially with the Trackhouse contract, and eventually wants to be the youngest Cup Series champion ever. Conor has all the potential in the world. He's already won Sebring. He's already won at Daytona. In IMSA, I think he could be a guy to watch for to be the next great superstar. And finally, let's talk about Richard Childress Racing. Richard Childress Racing is an organization that could be one of those teams that gets a third charter. They have a driver like Austin Dillon ready to go, and I already mentioned this, but I don't think Austin Dillon is going to retire at the end of the year. With Jesse Love and Austin Dillon performing extremely strong so far, I do believe that they're going to expand to 3 full-time cars by 2026. If Austin Hill doesn't take over the 3. And I think the 3 number will be gone if Hill goes full-time Cup, and a 33 car will join anyways. I think RCR is in the running to potentially go full-time with 3 full-time entries if they can get the charter. So, that is the silly season update for April. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support on Patreon as well. Links description below, then comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts on the first silly season update? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Later today on the channel, we'll have the poll video for Wins the Cup Series poll. We're also going to have the next Xfinity Series race review, and we're also going to have the SVG video probably. Then later this weekend, we are going to have the Cup Series race review from Martinsville, and we're also going to have basically the starting lineup video as well. And then on Monday, we should have other content dropping, like some news as well. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.